If you're a whiskey lover, there's only so many things that you can buy that aren't whiskey related. Obviously, you can buy more bottles of whiskey, but what happens if you want to spread your love of whiskey even further? Well, one of the most obvious things that people go and buy or get bought for them is a distillery map. But let's face it, pretty much all distillery maps on the market are terrible. They're made by people who don't like whiskey, and lots of them just look crap. Let's just face it. So we decided to change that, and well, we've made this. Now, 100 respect points if any of you have noticed this in the background here. It's been here for about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months or something like that, but we've just never been able to find the time to get around to filming this video. But today we are launching it. Well, what is it? It's essentially a modern take on an antique map. And in our opinion, it's the best distillery map that you can buy, bar none. Like, it's not cheap, people. It's between £97 and £270, and that is for an A3 to A1 framed and glazed print delivered to your door if you're in the UK. If you're overseas and you want to order one of these, you absolutely can, but just get in the comments or send us a message and we'll come up with a custom quote for you. So, I mean, it really is awesome. I won't take it off the wall because the B-roll should show you all the details that you can get, and obviously if I start faffing around with it, it's gonna get broken. Now, the one that we have here isn't glazed. This one has got no glass on it because otherwise you'd be getting reflections back when we're filming here. But what is it? Well, technically it covers the areas of northern and southern Argyllshire, which means it covers basically Islay, sort of here. It covers Campbeltown, which is sort of just down here on this tip here, and we're going to look at that in a bit more detail. And it also covers some of the islands in Jura, and you've got Oban. And I think right at the top, we've got Ben Nevis as well. So it covers a really big spread. But obviously, it's not a distillery map of the entire part of Scotland. It's just part of Scotland. Now, we know this isn't cheap, but we know it's the best. And why do we say it's the best? Well, in our opinion, it's the best. We set out it had to meet 3 main criteria. So first of all, it had to be historically interesting. It didn't just have to sort of be a map for the sake of being a map. It had to obviously feature distilleries, and it had to look great on any wall. So by this, I mean, you can slide this print into your house without it causing too much disruption to your spouse, who may already think that you've got enough whiskey related bottles and ephemera knocking around. So the point is that we could make a map that looks really visually interesting, but is also going to blend into any house and also look good when you're a whiskey geek like me. You can see more information on there. So let's take a bit of a closer look at it. So the first thing I mentioned there, it had to be historically interesting. I didn't just want it to make something for the sake of making it and just churning them out. So I think we've absolutely smashed this. The prints that we're making or printing, they are reproductions of a map that was originally made by John Thomason in 1824, i.e. the original version of this map was published 199 years ago. Ironically, it was 1 year after the 1823 Excise Act, which licensed the production of alcohol in distilleries in Scotland. So it's pretty much 200 years old. What you're looking at there is, for argument's sake, a 200-year-old print. We've digitally restored it, we've digitally remastered it, and it looks really, really fantastic. And the detail, as we'll put on screen now, is insane. Now, Thomason was an interesting guy. He was born in 1777, and he would eventually specialise in the production of maps. And he set up John Thomason & Co., which operated between sort of 1804 and 1837. Now, his best known publication was the Atlas of Scotland, which was publishing groundbreaking detail. Again, we'll put some more clips on the screen now so that you can just see the level of detail that is on this map. And if any of you have been to Scotland, if any of you have been visiting distilleries, you'll know just how big and awkward Scotland is to get around. Now imagine that 200 years ago, without any sat-nav, and basically without any good maps. These were the first reference works that were coming in. Probably to pick up on the boom, knowing that the excise men are going to have to start touring a lot more of these distilleries now that they're legal, so they need better maps and production of it. Now, if you imagine that, the work that's gone into that is just absolutely insane, and all of this would have been engraved by hand before being printed, and I think that's what drew me to it. It's not just like a map of Scotland. It's a beautiful and interesting shape. It works aesthetically, and it looks really good on the wall. Now, The second point that we talked about, it has to feature distilleries. Now, again, we've smashed it. The problem is that when this map was produced in 1824, there were not that many legal distilleries. But we've gone in and added all of the distilleries in Scotland in this region of Scotland that is being reproduced, and they're just represented by a small still, which you'll be able to see on screen now. When the map was made in 1824, you would have had places like Bowmore in production, one of the earliest distilleries on Islay, would have originally been there, but we've got some of the more modern distilleries as well, like Ardnahoe. The problem is that pretty much every week a new distillery is announced in Campbeltown or Islay and stuff, so we've stuck to the ones that are fully open and fully operational. Now, the coolest part about this map, which I mentioned earlier, is this little bit down here, which shows you a small area of Campbeltown. It's a zoomed in area of Campbeltown, and you can see that you've got Glen Scotia, Glengyle and Springbank, all nicely sort of there on the end of the peninsula. Obviously the peninsula is cut off at the bottom of the map, but it's reproduced up here, and then we've got this lovely little zoom in thing there. So it has everything that you would need as a whiskey geek to geek out and look at it. Now, the final thing that we had to sort of try and match was that it had to look great on a wall and it had to look great in any house. So how have we done this? Right, if you've not got a YouTube studio like we have here, where we can just sort of put whatever we want and just basically faff around, and this is just basically solely for filming YouTube videos, you might have more pressures from your spouse or significant other that is telling you what may or may not be allowed into the house. So we have not compromised in any part of this. The paper that we've printed it on is acid-free archival paper, so it won't fade and disappear over time. We've used the highest quality printing techniques with a printer in the north of England. So they are really, really super quality prints, and they're in a solid wood frame, which is made or assembled in the north as well. And all of this is sort of like, it's all done ready to order. So yes, essentially we're drop shipping these. These are going to be, as soon as you order one, the prints are ready, but they'll get framed up ready to order and then dispatched to you. So the lead time on a dispatch is maybe 3 to 5 days, but that's because they're all being bespoke made and ready to be shipped for you. Now, they look like any antique map, for argument's sake. If you were to put this on your wall, because of the style of the frame and because of the style of the print, it would probably deceive a lot of people in thinking that it's original antique map. So So there's not really much more to say about it other than it's available now on the Mark Littler shop. And if you like whiskey and you like maps, well, blimey, this is for you.